On April 6, 2026, at 6:41 in the evening Eastern Time, the crew of Artemis II watched Earth disappear, not metaphorically. The planet they grew up on, the planet that holds every person they have ever loved, every city, every ocean, every forest, slid behind the curved gray rim of the moon and vanished. The photograph they took in that moment, a muted blue crescent sinking behind cratered lunar rock, is a mirror of the famous Earthrise image captured by Apollo 8 in 1968. Except this time, Earth is not rising. It is leaving. And for the next 41 minutes, as the Orion spacecraft swept behind the far side of the moon at more than 4,000 miles above the surface, the four people inside it were the most isolated human beings who have ever lived. No radio signal from Houston, no telemetry, no abort commands, nothing but silence and the oldest, most battered landscape in the solar system stretching out beneath them. Victor Glover, the mission's pilot, tried to describe what he was seeing in real time before the communications blackout hit. He could not. Not really. He radioed down that humans probably have not evolved to see what they were seeing, that it was truly hard to describe. He said there was just so much magic in the Terminator, the shifting line between sunlight and shadow, that the islands of light and the valleys looked like black holes you could fall straight to the center of the moon if you stepped in some of those. Then the signal cut out, and for 41 minutes, they were alone with it. Stay with me, because what Artemis II found on the far side of the moon, what decades of orbital data and robotic missions had already been hinting at, and what the crew saw with their own eyes for the first time in human history, tells a story about our closest neighbor that is far stranger than the dead rock we spent 53 years assuming it was. Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen, commander, pilot, and 2 mission specialists, the first woman, the first black astronaut, and the first non-American to venture beyond Earth orbit. They launched from Kennedy Space Center at 6:35 in the evening on April 1st, 2026, on top of the most powerful rocket NASA has ever built, the Space Launch System, which generates 8.8 million pounds of thrust at liftoff and stands 322 feet tall. The translunar injection burn lasted 6 minutes and 5 seconds. After that, there was no turning back. The trajectory was a free return, meaning that even if the spacecraft's engine had failed completely after that burn, the moon's gravity would have slung them around and sent them falling back toward Earth on its own. Apollo 13 followed the same kind of path in 1970. It is the safest route to the moon, which tells you something about how dangerous this still is. The safest option is the one that accounts for total engine failure. The 7-hour flyby on April 6th took them within 6,545 kilometers of the lunar surface at closest approach. At their farthest point from Earth, they reached 406,771 kilometers, roughly 252,756 miles, surpassing a record that had stood for 56 years since Apollo 13. Commander Wiseman said it afterward with a weight that carried. "We are bonded forever, and no one down here is ever going to know what the 4 of us just went through. It was the most special thing that will ever happen in my life. To understand why the far side is so disturbing, you need to understand how different it is from the side we see every night. The near side, the hemisphere that permanently faces Earth, is covered in vast, dark plains called Maria. Ancient lava flows that filled enormous impact basins and cooled into flat basalt seas billions of years ago. About 31% of the near side is covered in this volcanic rock. It gives the moon its familiar face. The far side has almost none of it, less than 1%. Instead of smooth plains, the far side is a wall of craters stacked on top of craters stacked on top of older craters. It looks like something took a hammer to it for 4 billion years and never stopped. The crust on the far side is roughly 50 kilometers thicker than on the near side, and no one fully agrees on why. The leading theory involves a cataclysmic impact near the moon's south pole so violent that it sent a plume of heat rippling through the entire interior, shoving rare Earth elements and radioactive materials toward the near side. That impact left behind the largest preserved crater in the entire solar system, the South Pole Aitken Basin. It stretches roughly 2,500 kilometers across and plunges up to 13 kilometers deep. If you placed it on a map of the United States, it would swallow everything from Texas to Virginia. And buried beneath its floor, something enormous is hiding. In 2019, a team led by planetary geophysicist Peter James at Baylor University combined gravity data from NASA's Grail mission with topographic measurements from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. They found a mass anomaly sitting at least 300 kilometers below the surface, a blob of dense material weighing at minimum 2.18 quintillion kilograms. James described it as roughly equivalent to burying a pile of metal 5 times larger than the Big Island of Hawaii underground. Whatever it is heavy enough to drag the basin floor downward by more than half a mile. The most likely explanation is the metallic core of the asteroid that punched the hole in the first place, still lodged in the moon's mantle after 4 billion years. Like a bullet fragment the body never managed to push out. The Artemis II crew became the first humans to see the eastern edge of this basin with their own eyes. If you are the kind of person who stays for the real science, drop a like right now, because it genuinely helps this kind of content reach more people who want to hear it. The crew also witnessed something no human had ever seen from this distance or angle. A total solar eclipse from lunar orbit. As Orion dipped behind the moon, the sun slid behind the lunar disk and disappeared. Totality lasted nearly 54 minutes, almost 7 times longer than any eclipse visible from Earth's surface. Glover described the sun's corona as bright enough to ring the entire moon. Hansen reported that the sun was illuminating the entire perimeter of the moon during totality, highlighting unique topography along the lunar limb, ridges and peaks silhouetted against the burning white light of the sun's outer atmosphere. In one of the eclipse photographs NASA released, Saturn is visible as a bright point just below the moon's lower right edge, with Mars at the far right of the frame. Koch later said that launching on April 1st meant the far side was not as illuminated as they had hoped, but the eclipse seemed to be a consolation. And it was one of the greatest gifts of that part of the mission. Before the eclipse, the crew observed and photographed the Oriental Basin, a nearly 600-mile-wide impact scar straddling the boundary between the near and far sides, 3.8 billion years old. They photographed Reiner Gamma, a bright swirling pattern on the near side that has no elevation, no crater, no volcanic deposit. It is a flat, optical marking that aligns perfectly with a localized magnetic anomaly in the crust beneath it. The moon has no global magnetic field, has not had one for billions of years. Yet scattered patches of magnetized rock persist in its crust like ghosts of something that used to protect it. Koch noted that the smaller, more recent impact craters were shockingly bright compared to the ancient surface around them. She compared them to tiny pinprick holes in a lampshade glowing white against the dull gray terrain. The crew also noted color variations across the surface that no orbiter image had fully captured. Shades of brown and subtle green on the near side, faint blue tints in certain regions, color nuances that human eyes can pick out, but cameras tend to flatten. These color shifts reveal mineral composition and relative age, and could reshape geological maps of the moon. Now here is the part that makes the far side genuinely unsettling beyond what the crew could see from orbit. In 2023, researchers detected a thermal anomaly buried beneath the far side surface, a region roughly 50 kilometers wide that registers approximately 10 degrees Celsius warmer than everything around it. The likely source is a massive buried block of granite, a rock type common on Earth but almost unheard of on the moon because granite requires water and plate tectonics to form, neither of which the moon has. The researchers believe it may be the remnant of a volcano that went dormant 3.5 billion years ago, its residual magma still radiating faint heat. Lead scientist Matt Siegler noted that the finding looks far more like what we see on Earth than anyone had thought possible on the moon. Radar data and high-resolution imagery also suggest the moon harbors underground tunnel networks formed by ancient lava flows, with entrance pits visible from orbit that could lead to caverns large enough to shelter entire structures. Their true size, distribution, and structural integrity remain unknown. Future Artemis missions may eventually explore them. And the Apollo seismometers detected shallow moonquakes that suggest something is still moving inside a world we told ourselves was dead. The far side is already being explored robotically by another nation. China's Chang'e 4 lander touched down on the far side in January 2019, inside von Karman crater at the floor of the South Pole Aitken Basin. It was the first soft landing on the far side in history. The U-22 rover found minerals from the lunar mantle, olivine and pyroxene, confirming that the impact dug deep enough to excavate material from hundreds of kilometers beneath the surface. In 2024, China's Chang'e 6 mission went further. It collected samples from the far side and returned them to Earth, the first time material from the moon's hidden hemisphere had ever been brought back for laboratory analysis. Scientists are still working through those samples, and the far side offers something no other place in the inner solar system can provide: radio silence. It is permanently shielded from the electromagnetic noise of human civilization. Every cell tower, every broadcast signal, every Wi-Fi router on Earth is blocked by 3,400 kilometers of solid rock. For radio astronomers, the far side is the quietest listening post imaginable. Telescopes placed there could detect frequencies below 30 megahertz that Earth's own ionosphere blocks entirely, opening a window into the early universe that has never been available before. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. We spent 53 years calling the moon understood. We landed on it 6 times and collected rocks from a handful of carefully chosen sites, all on the near side. We built a model of the entire moon based on a local data set. That is like landing a spacecraft in the Sahara Desert and declaring the whole Earth is made of sand. The far side is where the real story lives. A landscape so ancient and battered that it records impacts the near side long ago erased under blankets of lava. A basin so large it may have shifted the moon on its axis. A metallic mass buried so deep it warps the local gravity field. Unexplained heat sources, sealed lava tubes. A crust so thick and so different from the near side that it challenges the basic models of how moons cool and solidify. Magnetic ghosts imprinted in rock that lost its field billions of years ago. And the 4 astronauts who saw it firsthand, the first humans to look at the far side since Apollo, and the first to do it from this trajectory, came back and struggled to put it into words. Glover said it simply after Orion cleared the far side and Earth reappeared. The moon is not just a poster in the sky that goes by. It is a real place. He is right. And the more we learn about it, the less comfortable that fact becomes. If this kind of deep research-grounded science is what you come here for, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. Artemis III is targeting a landing near the lunar South Pole. The full Artemis II image set is still being processed and released. I am covering every piece of it. Drop a comment with what surprised you most and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.